This country is on the verge of collapse, where it's a country where its people have risen. In comparison to all of the other counter-protests against us, we are the people of Ireland. We are the people who are sending a very clear message to this government.
Lincoln J reporting for Rebel News in Dublin, Ireland, and behind me are thousands upon thousands of Irish citizens who have taken to the streets to peacefully protest mass immigration. Now, I just had the opportunity to interview independent Dublin City Councillor Malachy Steenson. You may remember Malachy from previous reports that we've done in Ireland with my boss, Ezra Levant. Before we get into that interview, go to our website, migrantreports.com. If you support our independent journalism, consider making a donation through that website, and you can check out all of our coverage. That's migrantreports.com. Thanks. Another huge turnout here. What do you think?
Fabulous, much bigger than the last time. I think on the last occasion we had 50,000. The end of this rally is still at Cleary's, which is, a decent bit away. We'll know numbers when we have the drone footage later on. In comparison to all of the other counter-protests against us, we are the people of Ireland. We are the people who are sending a very clear message to this government. And this crowd reflects the true feeling of Ireland, not the feeling of the NGO class and the political class, but the real people of Ireland.
How do you think the media is going to portray today?
Well, like they do every other time, they'll totally ignore us. They will concentrate on the counter-protest. They'll say there's something like a couple of hundred people here. But these numbers are grown so huge that the mainstream media can no longer ignore it. But what they're starting to do now is to bring on bandwagon jumpers, people who were not at any rallies or protests, but who are now seeing the writing on the wall and are shifting to our position. The simple reality in this country is that one of the biggest problems we have is housing, and we can never solve the housing problem until we solve the immigration problem, until we stop importing people.
They will never mention the fact of the huge increase in population is what is driving up the price of houses and the scarcity of housing. And that is what is driving up rents up and down this country.
You cannot continue to put an increased demand on a system that's broken on so many levels. It's broken on the housing level, it's broken on the health level, it's broken on the education level, it's broken on the infrastructure to actually sustain a modern city where shortage of the sun only comes out, they're telling you, with a shortage of water, and the sun doesn't come out in this country that regular. Although, I have to say, today, in Cork 2 weeks ago, and here on the 26th of April, which was the day the Pope was buried, we had fabulous sunshine. And today, a few little showers, but great sunshine. And you can see the mood of the crowd in comparison to the mood of the counter-protesters. The counter-protesters are all vicious slurs in an attempt to create a violent reaction. And our people, our families, are peace-loving. And you can see the sea of tricolours here, and the left and the liberals and the wokes in this country have saw, and in the past 2 weeks they realised that we are the heart of the nation, that we have taken our flag to our heart, and that we have re-established the tricolour in this country as the flag of the people. Because for decades, if you flew a flag in Ireland, a tricolour in Ireland, you were automatically targeted by the state because they presumed you were a Republican. Now they just call us fascists and racists. And those other people, you can see at their counter-protests, I think there's one tricolour up there. The rest are LGBT, Palestinian, people before profit, communism, hammer and sickle flags. And even if you look at this building behind us, the Customs House, you will see the tricolour in the middle. But they'll have the Pride flag and the European flag alongside it. When we take power, and when the people of Ireland take power in this country, the only flags that will be flying from any buildings in this country will be a tricolour.
So from what you're telling me, the crowds keep getting bigger and bigger. Do you think that there's a bit of shift in the overall mindset? A lot more people are realising that it's getting out of hand?
Well, you see, when we started this in November 2022 in East Wall, it didn't affect a lot of people, and a lot of people thought it would never affect them. But we have, for instance, in the past week, the government admitting that they bought City West Hotel, which is one of the biggest side-pass centres in the country, for 148 million. If you follow the money and look at that building was built by people who were involved in the drugs trade, who were importing cocaine, the biggest importers of cocaine in the country, and the man is dead now, so I can say that, never charged or convicted. Parts of City West was built without planning permission. It had huge loans, and when the economy collapsed, those loans were taken into NAMA, which was the state's agency for buying up and saving the banks. The government, through NAMA, sold it to a consortium. Then they gave it a $100 million a year contract to house asylum applicants. And now they're buying it back for 148 million. So if you follow the money, and this is what this is all about, it's taking the wealth from the people and not putting it into the infrastructure like housing and health that we need to vulture funds.
Is it migration on all levels, legal, illegal?
Well, it needs to be stopped. And if you look at the work visa migration, if you take, for instance, Google announces 1,000 jobs tomorrow, 800 of those people will come into the country to take up those jobs. And those jobs will be highly paid. So those people are in a position to afford £2,000 a month for a one-bedroom apartment, whereas the indigenous Irish people can't afford that. And on the other end of the scale, you have asylum applicants coming in to work on minimum wage or less than minimum wage jobs. So that creates, a problem on two ends. We need to solve all of our problems. The first thing we need to do is to stop inward migration. And if you look at the Taoiseach and the Taoiseach today, they're more concerned about what's happening in Iran and Israel than they are. They seem to have forgot about Ukraine, that's gone off the burner altogether, than they are about what's happening in this country. And this country is on the verge of collapse, where it's a country where its people have risen. And if you look today, and if you look since the 26th of April, there have been protests somewhere in this country on this issue every day of the week. Next week, I think it's Strahd, and in a couple of weeks it's Galway, and, there are massive protests happening all around the country.
What do you think about the recent events in Ballymena following the alleged sexual assault? People took to the streets, started with a peaceful protest. Things obviously escalated. What do you think?
Well, I think, firstly, we don't condone violence because we think it's counterproductive. But it's an understandable reaction. And when you have a young child in Ballymena raped by two Roma gypsies, it's understandable, particularly with the general use of rioting in the 6 counties over 40 years. It's similar to what happened here when 3 young children were stabbed, not so far from here, and there was a couple of hours of rioting on the streets. That is an instant reaction, particularly when you have the political class denying everything in relation to the identity of the assailant. And that happened in November 2023. We still haven't had a trial. The guy was Algerian, but the state will come out and say, no, he's an Irish citizen. He's only an Irish citizen because they gave him citizenship, which is the easiest citizenship now in the world to get.
What would your message be to Canadians? Because in Canada, we have similar problems, but nobody stands up like the Irish. There's nothing like this in Canada. What would your message be to Canadians?
I think Canada's problems, are worse than ours, I would suggest, although it's a bigger landmass. And if you look at your problems in relation to fentanyl and all of that, what I would say, particularly to our Irish people who live in Canada and Australia and America, it's now time to stand up and join with people of like mind. Stand with the people of Ireland, but stand with the people of Canada. You can do it in Canada if people are prepared to get up and do it. I mean, if you look at the forces against us here, the whole state apparatus, a whole system of NGOs, 33,000 NGOs who get $6.5 billion per year from the taxpayer to basically argue against us. And that's something that's totally undemocratic. And again, when the people take power, those NGOs will be shut down.
Thanks for watching the interview. Go to our website, migrantreports.com. Check out all of our coverage from Ireland and our trip to Northern Ireland through that website. And if you appreciate the independent journalism, consider supporting our work through that same website, migrantreports.com. Thanks.